You're in the host chair today, and it's the start of baseball season.
Yes, it is.
Cleveland Guardians.
Finally.
I know yesterday was a disappointing loss. Ended with this 2-2 split against the Seattle Mariners. You weren't here earlier in the week, Jay, for the beginning of that series.
Right.
Obviously, the Bibee injury kind of derailed them in the first game.
A little bit.
However, Chase DeLauter had a historic record-setting weekend. When you put it all into context, Jay, what's your big takeaway from the first 4 games of the season for our Cleveland Guardians?
We might have to change the team name again, which is unfortunate because we've just been the Guardians for a handful of years. But right now we're the DeLauters. We're the Cleveland DeLauters. That's all we got.
That's all you got.
I mean,
CDs.
this young man, we should be over the moon with excitement over what he's doing, and I am. But it's tempered because the rest of the bats, the other 8 positions in the starting lineup, have had over 100 combined at bats, no home runs.
Crickets.
What's the first thing I said to you when we sat down? This
0.
morning? I said, Jay.
It's stunning on both fronts. If you'd have told me he'd have 4 through 3, or now 4, I would have said that's impossible. If you would have told me that the rest of the lineup has 0 through, now there's a couple things at play here. Number one, Seattle's starting pitching is probably with the Guardians. It's in line to be one of the best staffs in baseball. The Yankees staff is incredible, especially if they stay healthy. It's a great staff, but you got to get more than 4 home runs from your rookie.
Yeah.
And so I'm really disappointed about that. Yesterday, I thought I turned the game in the 6th inning or 4th inning. I said, we're going to get no hit.
Yeah.
I don't watch no hitters. Not when they're against us. I just watched the first couple of innings. This kid's sweeper it's unhittable. It looks like my wiffle ball back in the day. I mean, this thing was nuts.
Roller coaster.
And so I literally watched it and I said, I know what no-hit stuff looks like. This is no-hit stuff. I can't be a part of this. So I flipped the channel. I was watching on my app, and then I saw no hits in the 5th, no hits in the 6th. My son calls me from New York. He's watching the game in New York. He's like, Dad, we're about to get no hit. I said, well, I mean, I doubt it because they got the starter out of the game, and we should be okay now. And my son was incredulous. He's like, wait a minute, what? And I said, yeah, they took him out. Pitch count early in the season, in March. Your pitch count is 75 to 80, maybe if you stretch it out, maybe 90. So he three pitches into the game, he gives up that line single to DeLauter to right field, and the no-hitter's over. My son's like, that manager should be fired. He had a no-hitter. I said, you're playing the long game.
But
it's 7-0. The victory is at hand.
I don't like that either.
If it was my team, I want to see my pitcher go, but also you can't ruin his arm in the first start of the season. So I know here's the thing. If you'd have told me we're leaving Seattle 2-2, which is where we are, I would have said win. I don't care. I don't care if we won our games 1-0 and we lost 25-0 the other 2 games. Doesn't show up in the standings.
Yeah, Seattle.
So I'm happy with the split. I'm just not happy with the production.
That's how I looked at it, man. We went to Seattle, hostile environment against a pretty damn good baseball team, and we came away with a 2-2 split when our offense outside of Chase DeLauter did not perform well, when our starting pitching really didn't give us it really didn't meet our expectations for the Guardian starting pitching. And so to go in there, I think it was game 3 where he hit the go-ahead home run, that's a game to where the offense was even looking anemic then. So I'm happy that we walk away with a split. Do you want to win the series? Yes. But what you don't want to do is lose the series. And anytime that you can walk away with a split against a good team,
especially on the West Coast,
when everything is just off anyway, I'll take that. It's the start of the season. Hopefully, as we, move to LA, starting tonight, those bats start to wake up because you cannot just be dependent on Chase DeLauter alone to provide all of your offense. That ain't gonna work.
Man, this is one of the best things that could have happened to the Guardians because when you take a look at it, look, Seattle has World Series aspirations.
Sure.
They are at a point where I watch their crowd. I watch, their broadcast and how they talk about them. They think it's all about the postseason. Yeah. They've done well in the regular season. They think that they're a team that should be going to the World Series. So you get the situation with Tanner Bibee starting off the series. Hopefully he gets back. I don't like shoulder issues. And then you got Gavin Williams, and he struggled to find his command early on in that game. So
he did, yeah.
And that was they
gave up 3 hits and lost the game 5-1.
Yeah.
Because he walked a couple, he gave up a long ball. It's typical Gavin Williams stuff.
And did you see? And here's the thing too, Jay. You being a pitcher, He was kind of demonstrative about it. It looked like he didn't have his command, and it looked like he was a little perturbed about that.
I was surprised. I agree. More emotion than I expected to see from him.
Yeah.
He was upset, clearly, that he wasn't locating. But, if you go back to last year, the book on him, especially early, he figured it out the last month. But the book on him was you'd look up in the fourth or fifth inning, he'd be at 80 pitches, 100 pitches.
Right.
And he's out of the game. Now you're taxing your bullpen. So obviously they made a concerted effort this offseason to stretch him out. Not pitch count wise, but just get him into the 6th and 7th inning more often. Because you can't, he's your front of the rotation guy. Whether or not he's the ace or not, that'll play out. I know Bybee got the regular season start. I asked Tanner Bybee in Arizona a couple of weeks ago who the opening day starter was going to be. He's like, I don't know. And I'm like,
I don't know.
I said,
what?
Really? He goes, yeah, man. And this was just like with 10 days left. And he goes, Voter hasn't said anything. I'm guessing it'll be either Gavin or myself. And when they named Bybee, I was a little bit surprised.
Jay, let me ask you this. Back to what G just said about Gavin Williams. If you're Carl Willis and you see your starting pitcher out there that emotionally distraught, what is the conversation with him in between innings when he comes back to the dugout?
I don't think it's a good question, but I don't think that's either a mound visit conversation or a dugout conversation. This is a global thing. Yeah. This is something that needs to be baked into the cake by now. You're not having that conversation with your, front of the rotation or ace of your staff in the game. Like on a non-starting day, when he's going through his paces, his regular workouts, you pull him aside and you're like, we need to revisit, because trust me, this has been talked about. We need to revisit the mindset of a starting pitcher, particularly the mindset of a guy that we look at as our front of the rotation guy. You're either the 1 or the 2 in this rotation. That means the 3, 4, and 5 are watching you operate. How are you handling your business? The one thing that, I always thought that Corey Kluber's biggest strength was also his biggest detriment. Everybody was like, the guy's, his nickname was Klubot. He's a robot. He doesn't show any emotion. Give me him 100 times over the guy that starts showing his frustration, and then, trust me, as much as you want to hide that, if we can see it at home, the hitters can see it.
Yeah,
and they start spitting on pitches that are on the edges, get that pitch count up, get into that head. Once you get into the head, the game is won. And so I just think that this needs to be an off-mound, off-day conversation. I'm sure they're having them. I'm sure they've had them throughout. The biggest thing with Gavin Williams is trust your stuff. You have A-plus stuff. Trust it. The positive coming out of this series was, even though the starting pitching I thought was they performed below my expectations. Right. I'm not going to say, I don't want to be too critical, but Gavin, he was great. He allowed just a few hits, but you can't go walk, home run. You can't do that. And he did. And I thought Bybee with the injury, I don't think his performance was subpar, even though he did give up 3 runs. I wasn't too disappointed in his stuff and his performance. I was just disappointed that his shoulder acted up and he had to come out of the game. For Ciccone, I expected way, way better than him.
I was disappointed in Slade.
Way better than him than he gave us.
Yeah.
And the weird thing to me was he gets their new leadoff hitter down in the count the first 2 at-bats, 1-2 and 0-2, and then he hits them with these back foot sliders or whatever he's throwing there. Like, I just, I'm sure he was frustrated by it too, but the pitching will get better. I feel comfortable about that. But, like, going into L.A. now, I don't know that I feel great about things going into Los Angeles because the Dodgers are better than the Mariners are.
Yeah.
And, if you go 1-2, I would take 1-2. What we can't have is a split.
No.
You don't want to come home with a 2-5 record.
No.
That doesn't look good. So just get 1 win. Hopefully you get it early in the series, and then you can try to pile on that. But
if Chase DeLauter, see, this is the test here. Because you know me, I'm the Duke of knee jerk. I'm already in. I'm already all in.
I see like rookie of the year, he's book it. You don't win that in the first week.
If he comes out here and he does what he needs to do against the Dodgers, and he maybe hits a couple more home runs, by the time they get back to Progressive, it's going to be people are going to be fired up because this is one of the first times you've seen a young power hitter. I can't even really think of it. Like maybe a guy like Russell Branyan that we talked about, the iffies, the guys that you think that was going to be up and comer hitters, and for him to hit that many home runs and for him to provide the power against a good staff and nobody else really kind of show up, that's very impressive. And by the way, I love the fact that he's one of the young guys. Now all of a sudden I'm like, okay, well, where's Bazan at? Because I just see him hit a rope the other day.
Yeah.
Will they platoon him more often now, or do you think that doesn't change their approach in terms of keeping him in the lineup because of the injury concerns?
I feel like they're going more every day to this platoon style, which I don't love. Hitters get in grooves. They need to play every single day. If you're only playing against lefties or only playing against righties,
right,
it's like you're a lawnmower and you're start, stop. You want to get in that rhythm and go. The best way to start having success against opposite-handed pitching is to see it more often.
Right.
You're not going to get better if you're sitting on the bench when a lefty's throwing. You know, you want to see that lefty. If you're a left-handed hitter, you want to see that lefty. And I think they did that a lot in spring training. They went with some very, very lefty-heavy lineups when they had lefty pitchers that were going against them, which is good. I want those guys to get as many at-bats, same-hand pitching as they can. But like, I just think that as an organization, I'm afraid that they're leaning more into the platoon system, which
we got to see this guy.
All I know, Jay,
we got to see him.
He wear 24. And you know my thoughts.
I know.
He wear 24.
Yeah.
When we play the Cubs, man, on opening day, it won't just be 11s. It's going to be 24s in the stands,
when
too.
you talk about like young power hitters, and I hate making these comparisons. I'm not going to say that this is who he is, but when Manny Ramirez came up,
that's the second time you're a man.
We watched him hit bombs against great pitchers, and we were like, okay, we've got something in this guy. We've got something. I'm not saying Manny Ramirez, for my money, is the best right-handed hitter that I've seen.
Me too.
I'm not,
He's still in the cages.
What really drove me nuts was Sunday morning, the conversation was how awful DeLauter's home run swing was in the 10th inning.
He's getting full. He get full and hit home runs.
So now what happens is, you know how this works. You build him up, then you tear him down. Like, already, the guy's played in his third major league game. He's got 4 home runs.
Didn't he go oppo?
And that's my point was, he took a pitch that was up and out. You can't get a fluid, beautiful swing on that pitch.
He went oppo.
Go look at Vlad Guerrero, old school Dad Guerrero,
right,
and go look at some of his opposite field home runs that were on pitches that were high and up.
That's crazy.
You put whatever swing on the ball you need to put the wood on the ball. And that's what he did. It's not, he's got a beautiful swing.
Man.
He's got a sweet swing.
That just shows his power.
It shows his power. It shows his ability to reach
his
up.
His mechanics is nasty, too. The way that he can just adjust, like, right there in the moment on breaking ball pitches and then bring it back for fastballs. Like, that dude got a third eye at the plate.
We're going to start our YouTube hour, and I'll tease that now, and then we can move on to Mary Kay. We're going to start our YouTube hour with Chase DeLauter and what his ceiling is. I'm just going to tease that a little bit by saying, and I may have talked about this, I know I talked about it upstairs on Channel 3. I asked Austin Hedges, who a lot of people look at Austin Hedges and say, oh, well, Austin Hedges is the greatest hitter. He's not, but Austin Hedges is going to be a manager in this league one day.
Oh, yeah.
Unequivocally, and he'll be a good one. He recognizes talent. I wanted his thoughts on Chase DeLauter, like what his ceiling is, what's different about him, why he's going to be the player he is. I could barely get the question out of my mouth to his ceiling, and he interrupted me and said MVP. Mm-hmm. And I said, wait a minute, what? He goes, MVP. This kid is an MVP talent. He will be an MVP. Why? He said, he's just one of the few that it comes easy to. When seasoned veterans stand behind the cage to watch him take BP and are awing at the majestic home runs that he's hitting and how it sounds different. That's what I noticed too. You always hear guys will say, it just sounds different coming off his bat. When he was taking batting practice, if I was writing or I was doing something in the stands and not paying attention, I would automatically say, Chase is hitting. And I'd look up and he's in there. He's in the cage. It just sounds different.
He's the second person that said that.
Mm-hmm. So we're talking about that in the YouTube show. We'll lead off the YouTube show in the 11 o'clock hour with more Chase DeLauter talk. We're very excited about his potential, Mike.
Yeah, when we come back, though, we're going to pivot, talk a little Browns. Andrew Berry was asked directly about whether or not he'd trade Myles Garrett. We'll play you that answer and see if he officially shut the door next on UCSS.